February 17, 2021, Executive Council, Council Chamber, State House, Boston, Mass. Dear councils, I'm pleased to nominate Michael F. Hogan for the position of Clerk Magistrate of the Lynn District Court. I submit the nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to Part 2, Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I'm enclosing the nominee's resume for your convenience. Sincerely, Charles D. Baker. The vice is the Honorable Brian B. Sullivan. So with that, we will hear from your first witness, Mary Beth Brady, the Clerk Magistrate of the Malden District Court.
Good morning, council members, and thank you
Good morning.
for this opportunity to address you today. I have a few prepared remarks that I'd like to submit to you in my support of Michael Hogan. As Clerk Magistrate of the Malden District Court for almost 13 years, I have had the privilege of serving the Commonwealth in this very important role, and I continue to learn every day what it takes to run a busy district court. What it takes to run a busy district court under the best of circumstances. For me, it takes teamwork, a dedicated staff, and commitment to public service. Just over 6 years ago, I had the good fortune to hire Michael Hogan as an assistant clerk magistrate, and I would like to focus on the character and qualities that he possesses that I believe make him a well-suited for the position of clerk magistrate. In everything he does, Michael Hogan conducts himself with integrity and honesty. He is thoughtful and fair in his decision-making responsibilities. He treats everyone who comes before him, whether in a hearing, in a courtroom, or at the counter, with dignity and respect. Michael Hogan is very hardworking. He is usually one of the last to leave and has never left the office without inquiring of the staff if there is anything that he can do to help them. To a staff member who has had a long and challenging day, it is noticed, appreciated, and offered with sincerity. When dealing with a tough situation or a disgruntled litigant, Michael Hogan never shies away from the opportunity to relieve someone from engaging in a confrontational interaction. I have witnessed several times him actively listening to an angry person, not talking over them. He has diffused volatile moments with his calm and respectful demeanor and always a well-placed sense of humor. Michael Hogan is loyal. When I was in the process of hiring him, someone said to me, "You will not find a more loyal and steadfast person to always have your back and do what is right for you, for your office, and for the court." I quickly experienced that quality in him because whatever task or assignment he was given, he would always say to me without hesitation, "I will do whatever you need me to do, Madam Clerk." He has done whatever is asked of him with a positive attitude, leading the team around him to get the job done well. Michael Hogan is a wonderful husband, father, and son-in-law. I have had the pleasure of having his youngest twin daughters intern in Malden, and it was so nice to watch their interaction with their dad and see how much they adore him. The values that have been instilled in all of his children by he and his wife Liz is a testament to the family life that they have created. Watching the genuine love and respect that they have for each other has carried over into the respectful way they interact with other people every day. I believe that Michael Hogan will lead by example as Clerk Magistrate of the Lynn District Court. He will set the tone, encourage teamwork, and bring to the court those qualities of integrity, hard work, and loyalty that have been so important to myself, my staff, and the public that he has served at the Malden District Court and throughout his distinguished career. Although I and my staff are sad to see him go, we know that he will continue to have a lifelong friendship with him. We are happy that he has been nominated for this very important position as Clerk Magistrate. I know that he will carry on in the Lynn District Court in the same honorable manner that he has in Malden. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any questions for the clerk? Yes, Councilor Devaney.
All right,
Good
welcome.
morning. Thank you.
I'm sorry, how many years have you worked with the nominee?
For 6 years, I've been the Clerk Magistrate for 13.
Okay. So tell us, what are your responsibilities as a first justice? I'm sorry, as a clerk magistrate, and what is the responsibility of Attorney Hogan?
In my office, he's an assistant clerk. I am the clerk magistrate, responsibility for all of the operation of the office, personnel. Anything that gets filed in the court comes through the clerk's office and must be properly received, entered into the docket, and we run the operation of the sessions every day. We do clerk magistrate hearings. So Michael Hogan, as an assistant clerk, under my direction, is responsible for all of those things and whatever assignment is given to him, and working with the staff every day to assist them as well, and the public.
How many clerk magistrates do you have in Malden District Court?
Right now, I have 5.
You have 5. Okay. Busy court?
Very busy.
Yeah.
It
Through
is.
the pandemic, how are you working?
We have been open to the public as soon as we were able to. We've been operating since the beginning via Zoom, and we are able to help people as long as they can meet the screening criteria to come into the office and offer them.
So
we are running
has
sessions.
Attorney Hogan's caseload reduced or do this?
No, we're very busy because we're operating at 50% staffing. So for all the work that we do in the emergency matters that we handle, we're doing that with less people. So the staff really have to work very hard together to get the job done. It has been challenging, but they are rising to the occasion. And I see in Assistant Clerk Hogan those qualities, that he's able to lead people and really does a great job. And he never, as I said, he never leaves without checking with them, to make sure that they don't need assistance. And it's a quality in him that I value as a clerk magistrate so much.
Thank you. Thank you
very
for coming.
much. Thank you. Appreciate
I can't believe it's been 13 years
I
you've
know.
been a clerk in that
it. I
court.
know.
Where has the time gone? Huh?
Exactly.
Yeah, well, you do a wonderful job. Your
Thank
court
you.
is just really wonderful. And your facility is somewhat out of date, but you make the most out of it. You really do. Great to have you. Your testimony means a lot to me. Thank you. Is there another witness? Is Judge?
Council, Judge Cesar Achia, I believe he was going to join us remotely. I don't know that he has.
Let me check to see if he's here. Is Judge Archila on the screen at all?
As of right now, he is not present.
Who's here?
What did he
Just
say?
us? Is there any other councilors here?
Excuse me, I didn't hear you, Adam.
I'm here.
Okay, well, if he comes on the screen, just let us know and we'll have him testify. Okay, as soon as he gets on, just let us know. And we will hear from you, but before we do, can you introduce your family, please?
I certainly can, Council, and thank you. If I may, Council, I'd like to begin by introducing my oldest son, Michael, a chemical engineer graduate from the University of Mass at Lowell. And he works in Andover, Massachusetts. He works for a company that has a patent on the technology that keeps organs in a live state from harvest to donor.
Wow.
And it's kind of a cutting edge kind of thing, and we're proud of Mike. My daughter, Shayla, she is watching us, I'm assuming, from Beaufort, North Carolina. She happens to be on her own boat. She owns a 43-foot sailboat. She's a graduate of the Massachusetts Maritime Academy. She's a licensed captain, merchant marine, and she's actually recovering from COVID, and which is one of the reasons she did not make the trip. Another success story in my mind. My son Matthew is here with his wife Alyssa, both UMass Lowell graduates. Matt is an external wholesaler for Eagle Life Insurance. They're recently married, and we're very proud to have Alyssa join Matthew and our family. My daughter Kathleen is with me. She's in the middle. She is a twin. Her twin is not here today, joining us virtually. Kathleen is a senior at the UMass Lowell, a psychology major. Kathleen is extremely independent. She works a couple nights a week and goes to school. She's, again, a psychology major and a Dean's List student. Not sure what her plan is, but it's a very bright future. My daughter Christina, Kathleen's twin, joining us virtually. She is in her final year at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point. Christina will be, I believe, serving as a licensed officer in the Merchant Marines and fulfilling her obligation for the school through the Naval Reserves as an officer. And what I do need to mention, and most importantly, and I consider my greatest achievement, including this day, is I convinced 35 years ago Liz to marry me. She's here with me. And I would like to say that without Liz's love, guidance, and friendship, I would likely not be here before you today. Thank you, Liz.
Well, maybe we should make her the clerk.
She is. She would be.
And I want to point out, Paul Flanagan is here, your old
John.
friend, and his
John.
father was a DA in Suffolk County for many years. Nice to have you, Paul. I hear we have the Honorable Judge Archilla here. He comes on, everything stops, we go right to him.
Who's speaking?
Robert Jubenville.
There you go. I can see you now, and I see Chris Iannella. I can't see I can't see Mr. Hogan. Am I up? Is it my turn?
Your turn, Judge. When you come on, we stop. You have the floor.
Yeah, like E.F. Hutton. I can't. You know, as much as I've been doing this for a year, I still can't. I still can't fully embrace Zoom. I'll make this quick. I know everybody needs to do other things and get this done successfully. I've known. First of all, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me say a few short words on behalf of Mike Hogan. I'm honored and I'm humbled that he'd asked me to do this. I've known Michael since 1997. We were both students at Suffolk Law, the evening division, not part-time, 5 classes at night, it's full-time. And at the time, Michael was a state trooper. I was, most of our colleagues were doing other things, bankers, police officers, people in finance, and they had second jobs. Michael was a state trooper doing really dangerous things. He was part of, at one point, part of the Cross Borders Task Force. I don't know. I was a little afraid to ask exactly what he did, because all I know is that when he opened the trunk of his car, I was a little afraid. It was remarkable to me. I mean, we somehow all did it. I couldn't do it today, but Mike was balancing raising a family, going to school full time at night, being a state trooper, and conducting some really dangerous things, I think, in multiple states at the time. And I was always in awe of him for doing that. Juggling, is not everybody can juggle. And Mike is a juggler, and he's demonstrated that over the years. Since that time, I've had an opportunity to work to come to know Mike on a personal level. I know that he has 20 children, Mike, now?
Sometimes it seems like
It's
5.
It's actually 5, but his father had 10, so he tells me that he's half the man his father was, but I don't believe that at all. Enough said when you look at Mike's family. His wife, his children, that alone suffices to give you a glimpse of what Mike's about. I've had the opportunity to know him at a personal level as a student, and then afterward, I've worked with Mike. He was practicing in private practice, and then as a clerk in the Malden District Court. So we had an opportunity to work side by side. Again, after all those years, we worked side by side every day. And I can tell you, without any reservation whatsoever, and wholeheartedly, I would support his nomination, his candidacy, and his appointment to the Clerk Magistrate position at the Lynn District Court. I can go on and on and on, and anyone that knows me knows that I can. But I think, in fairness to the process, in fairness to Michael, I'll suffice it to say, absolutely no reservations whatsoever. And if anyone needs anything in writing at all, I'll be more than happy to forward something. Michael, I wish you well, well deserved, and the council's made a great choice. Thank you. If there's any questions at all?
Hey,
Thank you, Judge. Counselor Kennedy has a question.
I do, when we say put some stuff in writing, I have a few motions I wanted you to rule on.
Denied.
Thank you. As expected. It's good to see you, Judge.
Always.
Judge, thank you for coming in. Your testimony means a lot to me. And you know why I know you're one of the finest judges in Massachusetts?
Oh, here we go. Yes.
Because every time I go into a courthouse that you're sitting, the people in the hallway are saying, I want to get Judge Archilla. The lawyers are saying it. Everybody wants to be in front of you in a courtroom. That means you're doing a wonderful job.
Okay, well, I'll take that from you, Bob. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye now.
We'll go back to the clerk. Tell us in a few, we believe, did you ever hear the law of brevity?
I have.
Some judges don't have that, but I know you do.
The defense rests.
I can tell you based on my experience with the nominee, he's an expert at it.
He's an expert, okay. Well, give us the brief statement as to why we should vote for you for the clerk of the Lynn District Court.
Thank you. Governor Baker, Lieutenant Governor Polito, Council Jubenville chairing, Councilor Kennedy, thank you, Councilor DiPaolo, all distinguished councilors, and my humble witnesses, Attorney Ross, Attorney Green, staff, family, and friends. Thank you for your words of encouragement. And without all of the support that I have, I wouldn't have been here today. As you know, my name is Michael Hogan. I'm nominated for the Lynn District Court, and I'm truly honored. And it's with humility that I sit here before you and this council and seek that nomination. As some of you may be aware, we've heard some parts of it. I'm one of 10 children born to Bill and Dottie Hogan, who are not with us today, unfortunately. They're two incredible parents, role models, and people. Some of you may not be aware that, including my father, 6 of us are attorneys. 6 of members of my family are attorneys. So I'm a bit of a delayed vocation. And I will wrap this up, Counselor. I appreciate the opportunity. I've worn many hats in my life so far: attorney, trooper, detective, sergeant, assistant clerk, coach. I'm most proud of being called Dad or Liz's husband. But from all these experiences, combined with my education training that have provided me a unique set of skills, which are the keys to my success as a clerk magistrate. I find I draw on these experiences daily in the court. These experiences, both professional and personal, have provided me with patience, legal acumen, and an understanding of the human condition. I believe these serve me well in my service to others. I thank the governor, the lieutenant governor, and I thank you all for this opportunity, and I'm willing to answer any questions that you may have for me.
Well said. Counselor Iannella.
Thank you very much. Good to see you, Mr. Hogan.
You, Counselor.
I don't have any questions. We had a lengthy conversation, you and myself. I'm quite familiar with your background. You're going to a busy court. The Lynn District Court is one of the busiest courts in the Commonwealth, but I have every confidence that you're going to do an outstanding job. And when your name comes before the council next week, I'd be more than happy to support.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you. Counselor Kennedy.
Good morning, Mr. Clerk. I obviously don't have to ask you any questions because I have known you for such a long time. It's not just knowing you in terms of your qualifications, but as a person as well. You know, we've interacted over the last 9-10 years, almost on a daily basis, I'd say. At least pre-COVID, we certainly did almost on a daily basis. And I cannot think of anybody who is more qualified to be the clerk in the Lynn District Court than you. I just want to say something about Councilor Duff. I don't believe she is actually on the Zoom today. She was going to chair your hearing today, and was extremely supportive of your nomination. She had a family emergency. Her mother's in the hospital, and that's the reason that she's not here overseeing your hearing. And obviously, as you know well, looking across the room, family trumps everything. I just want to say that she's very, very supportive of you. Not even a close call. I'm voting for you next week.
Thank you, Counsel.
Counselor DePaulo.
Thank you. Attorney Hogan, I appreciated talking with you, and I hit the points that I'm concerned with. And I'm not going to present any more questions, but I've spoke with people who've worked with you, and they've had nothing but positive things to say.
Thank you, Counsel.
Thank you, Counselor Devaney.
Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Good morning, Counsel.
Thank you for all the time that you afforded me, 4 hours and 15 minutes, if I'm correct. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't go to the court to see you. So it was a pleasure to get to know you and to know all about your family.
Likewise, thank you.
The thing that on your JNC, with all the JNCs, that always concerns me, you don't have enough space to say, what's the rest of the story? So I get a few sentences here, but I don't know the results of that case. So for the public, I'm going to ask you some questions so that you can answer some of those questions that I do have about your cases. Now, you represented a police officer, and he was charged with a felony. That's all it says. So I'd like you to tell me about that case, because I didn't ask you when we met about that case, and what the results were.
Yes, my client was a police officer. Yes, he was charged with a felony. The felony was witness intimidation. It involved a very difficult set of facts where a family member had alleged that another family member had committed some criminal acts against that person, and my client, as a result, was charged with witness intimidation. I represented him before a bench trial in the Peabody District Court, and after a bench trial, my client was found not guilty. He clearly suffered a significant amount of lost time on the job. Clearly, his reputation had suffered. And again, but the system, as it should, worked, and he was determined to be not guilty. The difficulty in that scenario is that not only as a lawyer, but I was aware of the family. I had crossed paths with some of those members, and it was very personal to them also. So that's what makes it a difficult case, but one that I think the court got right.
Tell me, being a state trooper, how do you think that helps you to be a better judge? Or how does it affect you at all?
I find that the years of experience combined with the education that I added to that, being able to deal with people, understand their conditions, they may not be presented to you in the best light. So you need to adjust to what you see and don't hear. So I find that it's given me a sense of understanding and patience. And those are two things I think that serve me well, no matter what I've done.
What about the case that you had at the 6th Judicial Circuit in Lancaster County? So you're in South Carolina?
My representation of that individual, I was hired by an individual here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts a member of their family was charged with murder.
So that was a murder case.
Yes, it was. My representation was more to the family than the individual. However, with local counsel, I reviewed the search warrants. I reviewed the videotaped interviews of my client and the other individual that was charged. And I helped my client here in Massachusetts retain counsel. And ultimately, the individual that I was assisting in the representation of did enter into a plea agreement and received a significantly less sentence than the other individual charged. And he's actually soon to be released from prison.
Tell me how that works. You represented your client through a recorded state police interview.
In that particular case?
This is the same case. This is John Doe investigation. You use Essex County Grand Jury. And I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay, this is South Carolina versus Gregory Follansby.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm sorry. So, all right, he was charged with murder. All right, so you reviewed all arraignment, crime scene investigation materials, and so forth. All right, so were you alone on this, or did you have other attorneys, or you worked alone with this for the family?
My client was actually the defendant's father.
Okay.
And through all of that, again, I assisted the family in retaining local counsel, an attorney named Jack Swirling, and I participated in reviewing all of the pretrial material. Ultimately, my client was released on a bond for a period of a year prior to trial. That's kind of an unusual thing. It worked. And he had to spend some time with his dad, my client, who ultimately succumbed to lung cancer about 2 years ago.
You had a civil service trial. Do you remember that one? And that was Ruta versus the Methuen Public Schools. So you represented Mrs. Ruta at a civil service termination hearing. Okay, tell me about that.
My client was terminated from her position with the Methuen school system as a custodian as a result of her activities as a union treasurer. And after a successful hearing, my client was reinstated after a period of suspension. And that was the result of that civil service hearing.
So she got her job back?
Eventually she did, yes.
Yep. Okay. Looking back at your legal career, what stands out as the most rewarding result that you had case?
I represented a client that was charged with possession of 2 firearms in Lawrence. And it was strictly, in my opinion, a search and seizure matter. It was based on a consent search. Did file a motion, which I lost. I filed a motion to reconsider based on evolving case law, and I successfully suppressed the 2 guns.
Okay. What does your application say of the land court? I meant to ask you that when we met. It says application for clerk magistrate recorder of the land court. Is that just?
I'm assuming that that's a form that exists on the JNC website. I'm not familiar with, I didn't respond to any land court application.
Yeah. So this was the original court that they told you you were assigned to? Is that right?
This was the court that
Yeah.
they told me I was nominated to.
Yeah, okay. So, okay, so what was the most disappointing outcome that you had representing someone? Does one stand out?
I guess in review, the criminal matter that involved Reuter, that was the civil service that you made reference to a moment ago. My client was ultimately convicted of larceny over $250 by a single scheme by her activities as treasurer. The reason that I feel that was a disappointment was that my client had successfully completed probation, a period of 2 years, had children. My opinion was that she was a probation success story. She had made some payments back to the Treasury and then resigned from that office. The new treasurer came in, allegedly stole a significant amount of money. And as a result of that, they discovered that that money previously had been missing, ultimately replaced by my client. She was convicted. I felt that was a disappointment for me.
We talked a lot about this case. It really, it was kind of complicated. The one, it took place at a wedding, and this woman said that her grandfather had sexually assaulted her, and it was not the place that it would come up. I mean, she never said it before. And could you tell us about that, how that came to be?
So I don't recall it as a wedding. What I do recall it as was just prior to the 4th of July, and that there was going to be a family gathering, and that this disclosure preceded that family gathering. My client was not, the allegation was not made against my client. It was made against my client's father. And my client ultimately was charged. Again, we've already discussed it with that felony, the witness intimidation, by his own police department. So I take some pride in that. I think it was the right decision, and I think that I represented my client well.
So, okay, so the conclusion was it's hearsay evidence, or what? Tell us how that resulted.
There was no conviction against the alleged perpetrator of those acts. He died before he got to trial, which I think may or may not, or could have weighed in the Commonwealth's decision to prosecute. However, it didn't. My client was acquitted.
I'd like to ask you some about your philosophy. Mandatory minimum sentencing, which doesn't come up to you, but I'd just like to know your philosophy.
It would be beyond the scope of a clerk magistrate, which is the position I'm nominated for. However, I believe that they have been determined to be constitutional. I believe that the law evolves, and the legislature, in their with their legislative intent in mind, passes particular statutes for particular reasons, and I believe they have now reversed some of those specific to narcotics. However, they have left some in place that are specific to firearms, and I believe that the legislative intent is there, and I believe they're constitutional.
How did you vote on the marijuana question on the ballot a few years ago?
Secret ballot, isn't it?
Marijuana question?
It's a secret ballot. No, I voted
Ballot.
no. I voted no.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, everybody has a different opinion. I have two friends, their sons died of overdose of heroin, and they started on marijuana. So I guess, your experience influences your opinion. And I have two sons and two daughters, and my greatest fear when my sons were in high school was marijuana. I was talking to them about that the other day, and now it's all turned around. Now fathers and sons have marijuana together, so it is anything. How does the police deal with that now? When someone is speeding or whatever, how do they determine? They can tell if they've had too many drinks. How do they determine marijuana?
Personally, I've not been in a position to.
When you were a state trooper, you never had that
No.
happen?
It's been 10 years and the laws have changed, certainly significantly. How do they do it today? There are mostly civil penalties that are payable to the clerk of the court or municipality in which the offense occurred. Possession of 1 ounce of marijuana or less is legal in Massachusetts. We don't see as much in the trial court. I don't know if that answers that question.
In your court, has the drug cases increased in the last few years? People drug addicted come before you?
I think that if you were to classify every section 35 that now appears, which is significantly increased, and the governor in his infinite wisdom did increase treatment beds, and so we are filling them. There's no question about that. If you were to include those in drug cases, I would say that they've stayed the same or increased.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that too, and I've been talking for years up here that, there's no money in the budget up here that they give to judiciary so that we could have more drug treatment centers. Do you think we have enough?
I would say we could certainly use more.
Yeah. And is it still only one for women? They only have one, I think, for women.
I'm aware of WotC, but I am aware that there are counties.
Framingham.
Framingham
I
has
think-
their program,
yeah.
but that's under the DOC. There are all 6 counties running a great program, Women in Transition, among other things. We're evolving, but I think it's getting, say, 5 years ago.
In your opinion, do you think the specialty, are they working?
I do.
Can you tell me, have you been involved in any of them? The drug?
I feel that, in theory, the man accountable or responsible for meetings, assignments, getting to counseling, setting them up, gives them the opportunity to achieve some sobriety. It's not a one-stop solution.
When you've had people before you, non-citizens versus citizens, does it change in any way the way that you serve justice?
No.
Okay. You might say, well, why do I ask that? Because we saw it in Salem when a judge had an illegal before him. And I heard the tape, so I'm not making it up. And the judge said, if you were a citizen, I'd put you in jail. But you've been providing for your family. This was a big drug dealer that the police were trying to get.
Mm-hmm.
He even had compartments in his car, as you would know, as a state trooper, to hide it. And he gave him 2 years probation. The good news is we had someone here last month that we voted on, and she followed up on that because she was on the other side of that in Salem. And he went to federal court and they deported him. But you know what? He'll be back. He came back a couple of times before that. So I see that a double standard. And to me, that's it equally and fairly, no matter what. And I just don't understand why he got special treatment because he wasn't. I mean, a drug dealer is a drug dealer, So anyway, that's my opinion.
Okay.
What do you, I'm concerned about domestic violence during this pandemic. I don't think that you have child abuse cases come before you in your position as a clerk magistrate, right? Does it come before
They
you?
could be the victim of a crime, and certainly that would come if it's in the district court's jurisdiction, the
Yeah.
Lynn District Court's jurisdiction, yes.
Well, I've said this many times in the last months. I'm really concerned about child abuse
Mhm.
and domestic violence during the pandemic. The numbers are going down, but those incidences are not going down. We just don't hear them. Because if children were in school, maybe that child would tell the teacher, maybe a teacher would notice something about him, maybe his demeanor or scratch or something. I don't know what we could do about the babies at home, but it just seems that I don't know. I don't know what the solution to that is. And the same thing with domestic violence. So you got people home with mental issues that are out of work. A lot of people that shouldn't be children shouldn't be in their care, and that's what I'm concerned about. I don't know how you can or how the court can direct that. I don't know. That we just don't know what's happening in the homes, you know. We don't have the society that we had years ago. The other day, a woman threw her newborn baby in the trash. It's just, you know. What do you think about? It has nothing to do with you, but I'm looking at your philosophy. When you think of the youths who are getting involved in crimes, how do you feel? Do you think that the court should be, the age should be increased for youths than they did once, but you think it should be up a little more when, you know, they talk about, well, let me ask you, you know, what age do you think that an individual should go to a district court?
I would suggest that 18 is an appropriate age
Okay.
to fall into the purview of the district court.
Well, I'm concerned because there's a lot of people think it, you know, it shouldn't be. I'm concerned because the crime that we're seeing.
Mhm.
I read yesterday a 14-year-old boy killed a woman he didn't even know, you know, and these are the things I'm looking at, and I'm concerned about the sentencing they get, you know. So, so going to this court, what do you feel is your greatest challenge?
Probably the facility in combination with the changes that COVID has dictated that we undertake. So we're at, you know, 50% capacities. We're trying to find creative ways to serve the public, and doing it probably with less people is a challenge. And it's a challenge all over the Commonwealth, and I'm ready to face that challenge.
You have been involved with real estate quite a bit too, right?
Not exactly.
But it's been part of it, yeah. So, what kind of, I mean, I imagine a lot of it will go to housing court. What kind of issues would go to you? I mean, foreclosures, I think they go to housing, but I'm thinking some of them might be on the border that might go to the district court.
So if you're speaking specifically of housing,
Yeah.
summary process.
Yeah,
Summary process is heard in the district court and/or the housing court. And there is an opportunity to remove by the defendant if a landlord plaintiff filed say an eviction in the district court, the defendant tenant can certainly file to have it removed and heard in the housing court. I have no information as to how quick or better service they may get in either court. It would be my objective that the Lynn court would give you as quick a hearing as possible.
it wouldn't go before you, but big issue now is the home foreclosures. And a lot of them are not true because you've got someone on the other side who's putting this through the court from New York, say, and there's no identity. And to me, how can a judge make a ruling if he doesn't know both parties? So that's a big issue, but that won't be coming for you at all.
It would not.
No, well, that's one good thing, one less thing. So, no, I feel you understand the job. I like that you've had criminal experience. I said to you, and I say it all the time, strictly my opinion, I'm concerned about someone working in a courthouse that has never had, as an attorney, has never had criminal cases, because I don't think they give they're timid about giving the proper sentencing. So you don't have that either, so you don't.
Timid is not an adjective that people might use for me.
Right. So really, when we talked, your responsibilities are very similar to the clerk magistrate that you worked with, right? I mean,
That's
you
correct.
worked together.
I would say they're
Yeah,
exact.
yeah. How the other clerk magistrates, how do you interact, or you just have your job and they have theirs, or how does that work? There's 5.
Yes.
Okay.
In Malden, we rotate through sessions. So in a functioning 40-hour-a-week court, we would rotate through the first session, through a motions session. We conduct small claims hearings at least once a week, a summary process session that was on Thursday, and we do a day or more of show cause or criminal application hearings and civil motor vehicle infractions.
Now, are you seeing people in person, or is it all Zoom, or what is it?
We're at 50% capacity, so Malden specifically, I'm not able to speak on other courts because I believe some are doing it differently. We do see emergency restraining orders in person. We do have a lawyer of the day for arrests and arraignments. And we have the 2-party hearings that are in person. They're screened at the door. Much of the other events, pre-trials, et cetera, are predominantly done on Zoom up until the point where we are able to conduct some sort of a trial. I don't know when that is.
Okay. When someone comes before you and is accusing their partner of physical abuse, how do you determine whether that's truthful or whether it's fabricated?
I'm guessing that you're asking me about determining probable cause. At the clerk magistrate's level, probable cause is when you see a series of events or that satisfy the elements of the crime alleged, and that you have a reasonable belief that the person before you is the person that committed those events that satisfy the elements of the crime. If you're referring specifically to domestic violence is a misdemeanor. However, it does come with the power of arrest. Typically, those decisions are not made by the clerk magistrate, that the police officer on the scene usually makes a determination, places a person in custody. So therefore, that probable cause decision is no longer in the purview of the clerk magistrate.
The reason I especially asked about that is that that's actually the reason why I ran for governor's counselor, because I had a friend who was in a very dangerous relationship, and we all knew it. He wasn't a good guy. We saw it. I don't know how she got involved with him. And he became violent, and she feared for her life. And she went to the court 7 times, and no matter what, he persisted. So the 8th time that she went, my late husband was a firefighter and very close friends of police officers. And one close police officer, went in with my friend to court that day for the 8th time. And the police officer, our friend, said to the judge, give him a $200,000 bail. Judge gave him $200. He turned around and said to my friend, pay it. In fear, she paid it. My friend, the police officer, said he was out the door before I was. And the judge turned to my friend and he said, you're wasting my time, and you've been wasting this court's time. And she was dead 2 weeks later. And he got a life sentence, thank God. But the point is, where does someone go for help like that? How can they be protected? And she did have a little boy. Her parents were older too, and they brought up that boy. I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know what a governor's counselor was. And I didn't know how a judge got his job. And I found out, and I looked at the responsibilities and the duties of a counselor, and I said, I can do that. There'll never be a judge that I'll put on the bench that would ever say that to anybody. And that's it. So I think that probably, in my opinion, must be the hardest decision for someone to make, to know if the accusation is true or not. You look at their eyes, their emotion. I don't know, but there's nothing down in print that you can look and say, okay, he follows all this. So I don't know what the answer is, but I'm guessing, and I have no way of knowing statistics. I bet that domestic violence is increasing with the pandemic. You know, just this past week, my friend, this is another thing, her nephew, 15 years old, committed suicide. I think this is happening in a pandemic with kids. I don't know. I don't have the answer for those things, and you don't either. I didn't mean to ramble, but the DUIs are important to me. And I'm just wondering, how can you on Zoom, when you're not looking someone straight in the eye, know if they're being truthful? That bothers me, you know, because not all the courts are doing that. They're not all coming in person, are they?
Well, I think that the pretrial events are held on Zoom, and you're correct. It's a one-dimensional thing. You don't get the flavor of a witness testifying. However, certain things are in person, where you're hoping to see and get a true perspective, engage the truth as best you can. Certainly arraignments are in person, but the events that need to be in person are being held in person now. However, we really are not doing any trials where we're putting witnesses onto a witness stand and having their credibility assessed by a judge or jury.
I think this is a no-brainer. Would you ever turn off your recorder?
Would I ever turn it off?
Yep.
At the end of the session?
No, not the, of course you would at the end of the session, not gonna leave it on. Would you ever turn off a recorder when you are, when you have a case before you, someone before you? Would there be any reason that you feel you'd have to do that?
Sort of a recess or the end of the day.
Oh, I didn't know we're gonna have these questions back and forth. Just simple, someone's
No,
before you.
No,
And
Counsel.
would you turn
I
off the
think that's-
recorder?
I think that would be inappropriate of a clerk to shut off a recorder during a court session.
So there would be no reason for you to do that, right?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay, all right. Well, you know, I really enjoyed meeting with you.
Thank you.
And it is funny because we talked about tall people, and I'm from short people, and I couldn't believe it. I said, you're 17 inches taller than me. So anyway, I always wanted to be tall, but it wasn't in the genes. But it was a pleasure. What I like about you is that, too, that you didn't grow up with a silver spoon in your mouth, you know, and your family are workers, and that's the way you were taught. I like that. You earned it the old-fashioned way. So again, thank you for all the time that you afforded me. I really enjoyed meeting you and getting to know you. I feel like I know your whole family now and everything else. So
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you very much, Council.
Council Ferrero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hogan, you and I had some great conversations. I'm not one to ask a bunch of questions. And I just want to say thank you for your service. You know, one who served 30 years in law enforcement myself, I appreciate the job you did in law enforcement. You could have easily taken retirement pension benefits and retired and not done this, but instead you chose to continue to serve the public. And I just want to thank you for your service as a police officer and as an assistant clerk magistrate. You're certainly a great candidate, and you have my support and my vote next week. And I look forward to voting for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. Councilor Hurley. Councilor Hurley. You're muted, Councilor Hurley.
Hello.
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 Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. We spoke at length, and I was very pleased with the conversation we had. Most of the questions that I would have asked have been asked, and I can tell you that from my perspective, the biggest endorsement that you could get that says you're the man for the job is the praise that Councilor Kennedy had for you. So based on that and based on our conversation, I am pleased to indicate that I'll be voting for you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Hurley. I think we're done with it. I've had the pleasure of dealing with you when you were at the Malden District Court on a number of occasions, and I've watched in front of citizens that come before you. So, my opinion, you're doing a wonderful job, and you're going to make a wonderful clerk. I also have had the pleasure of being before your father many, many times when he sat in the jury session of the Dedham District Court and had the famous court officer, Gary, who took care of him. And if you wanted anything done, you'd tell Gary. But your father was very, very compassionate. He treated people so wonderful. And your sister also, I've been before a bunch of times in the court. She does a great job. And you're coming in a long line of former state police officers who've become clerks. Mr. Noonan out in Worcester, who was, I think, a clerk for almost 40-something or 45 or 6 years, maybe.
Retired from horseback. So.
Yeah. And my good friend Jimmy Roach and Brighton Court and William Lozano up in Lowell used to be my partner. And there was also another guy in Concord District Court years ago who was a former state cop. I think he became a superintendent of buildings at one point. He drove for one of the governors like Volpe or that. So I have no concerns about you being a clerk, in my view. I think you're going to make a wonderful clerk, and you're very compassionate. You have a wonderful family. You'll be in the Hogan tradition of helping people. Of course, your brother, I shouldn't leave your brother out in the BMC, who is just wonderful with people down there, does a wonderful job. So with that, the meeting is closed. We look forward to voting for you next week.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you. Thank you very much.